Romance shifts culture like no other genre of literature. Hey friends, Janelle here, and I want to talk to you about some very specific ways that I see romance authors shifting culture through their work as they write these love stories that we just adore so much. So, if you have been around the channel before, you know I'm obsessed with well, in my mind, the fact, some may say it's an opinion, I think it's a fact, that that romance is the most culturally significant and culturally impactful genre of literature, as the liberating and empowering messages within romance are fundamentally shifting the foundation of society, which is relationships. And what we see is how reading romance is fundamentally changing the relationship that readers have with themselves and the relationships that they have with everyone else around them, whether that be friends or family, work relationships, and then, of course, those romantic and sexual relationships. So let's explore, let's dive in, let's look at how romance is actually shifting culture. So the first thing I want to look at is how reading romance is actually shifting your relationship with yourself. How you see yourself, how you see yourself within the world, how you view the world, all of these things. So through romance, now if we're specifically looking at the biopsychosocial model, which I'm not going to dive into it here, but you can watch the other video. I'll link to it up here, and you can see how reading romance creates this space for people to build self-awareness and understanding, and to confront aspects of themselves, and to work through parts of themselves, and to just understand themselves in ways that maybe they couldn't previously really, or maybe ways they previously didn't have understanding of. And as readers are reading these stories that so deeply connect to them, because for so many people, for the first time ever in their life, they're able to come to a story and see themselves as the main character, not just a sexual object, not just a plot device to move the story along, but they are seeing themselves as the main character within the romance genre. And they come to these stories, and they step into these stories, and they're the main character, and that allows them and creates all this space for them to just build self-awareness and understanding, and to just transform the relationship that they have with themselves, to build more love for themselves, to build more confidence in themselves, security, all of these different things. And as readers become more liberated in themselves like that, it transforms all of the other relationships in their life. The second relationship I want to look at is the female friendship. And so, what so many authors are doing is they are having these friendships be as integral to the story as the love story, and having that platonic, deep emotional connection and security be elevated and revered. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful because so often we see women, that they're pitted against each other, or they have to battle for whatever little power they can get in a social situation. And it's so refreshing and empowering and liberating for authors to present these relationships as almost like a soulmate level relationship. And it's beautiful. And I think it also really helps for us to deconstruct and to heal from our internalized misogyny and our internalized sexism, and embrace that girl's girl mentality. And I think it's very, very profound. So then we have that romantic and sexual piece. And let me start just by kind of looking at the romantic and the emotional connection that partners are having. And I specifically want to focus on the MMCs in stories, and how men in general are portrayed in romance literature. And specifically, if we think about the romantic and the emotional part, you have men who are they're just grown men who can take care of themselves. They are emotionally available. They're emotionally connected to their partner, but as well as friends and family and siblings and people at work. They have all of these emotional connections. They are this dynamic character. They understand, they understand their parental responsibilities. They understand the division of labor, and they are equally helping out and helping manage the home. And there's just this baseline of respect and kindness and care. And so we see that this is the standard of men in romance. And when people continually encounter this level of maturity and emotional availability and just thoughtfulness and care, it shifts how how they know they deserve to be treated in real life. And in connection to that, as authors bring in really toxic characters and they compare that with MMCs, with the MMCs, it really exposes and helps readers understand, like, oh, I see this happening in my real life, and maybe they haven't been able to define that it's toxic and that it's harmful and manipulative and abusive, but when they see it on text again and again and again, and they can so clearly identify, like, oh, that's the villain of the story, and then they can identify, oh, that's the villain in my story in real life, and it totally shifts culture, because now people they understand what they're worth, they understand what they deserve, they understand how they should be treated, and it shifts how people are actually engaging in real life. Now, in terms of the sexual side of that piece, what romance is doing in terms of sexual liberation for women, sexual equality, and helping to shrink that pleasure gap is just profound. So there's a couple of profound things I see happening. One of them is that you have these authors who are writing with such intentionality, and their characters are having these sexual experience, but not only are they experiencing sexual pleasure, but that pleasure is so clearly coming, or that power, I should say, is so clearly coming from within. They aren't relying on someone else to be the source of their sexual power. They aren't having these external sources. Instead, these characters are able to step into and embody and embrace their sexuality, their sexual self, and to just realize that their sexual power comes from within, which is so incredibly powerful. And then connected to that, there is just this baseline of mutual pleasure in romance that, again, it's one of those things that readers are seeing again and again and again, and they're realizing, oh, that's what it's supposed to be like. I shouldn't have to show up to every situation and make space for everyone else's pleasure. I should be able to take space and make sure that my own pleasure is, is experienced. And it's so incredibly profound. All right, friends. So those are just a few of the ways that I can just pinpoint that I see romance shifting culture, changing society. I would love to hear what you think. What are some things that you're seeing? Drop it in the comments. And if you are someone that maybe hate watched this, I hope to have changed your mind a bit. And hopefully you can now also see that romance literature plays this profound and valid and vital role in our society. And I didn't say this earlier, but just want to stress that that is really at the heart of romance literature's ability to shift culture. It's that it is the only space within our culture that centers and prioritizes women's stories from their perspective, centering their pleasure, their experience, their joy. And because it's started as this space for the woman, for the female perspective, it also creates space for all of these other marginalized and underrepresented groups of people who don't ever get to be the main character to show up in their corner of romance literature and to be the main character. And that just changes people. It absolutely changes people. And every time romance is read and it changes a person, it shifts culture, it shifts society, and it's just incredible to see. And I love it so much. And I just think that I just think everyone needs to read romance. Everyone needs to read romance. So again, drop a comment, hit that like, share it with a friend, and I hope to see you in the next video. Take care, and until then, keep on enjoying and embracing the magic of romance.